So Toad in the Hole may have one of the strangest names you've ever come across, but here in Britain it is an absolute pub classic. You take crispy Yorkshire puddings put together with delicious sausages to come up with the ultimate comfort dish. But here's the thing, is it that easy to make? Can a home cook like me make it as good as the pub? I've been scouring through recipe books, searching all over the internet to put together what I believe may be the best homemade recipe for Toad in the Hole. For a recipe to be a good homemade version, it needs to be convenient and not too complex, with a good margin for error, because God knows I make my fair share of mistakes in the kitchen. Toad in the Hole has three main components to it, and we'll be tackling each one. The Yorkshire pudding batter, the sausages, and some delicious caramelized onions that go on top. The Yorkshire pudding is by far the most critical part of the dish, and also where there is the most variations in recipes. What seems to be most key is making sure the batter is smooth as can be, and needs to be light enough to rise in the oven. Some recipes call for less flour, more eggs or milk. I've gone with a higher flour and milk ratio, as that seems to hold its shape better in the oven. We've got 225 grams all-purpose flour, 3 eggs, 250 milliliters milk, a pinch of nutmeg, sugar, and a little secret hack I found on the internet from Recipe Tins, a teaspoon of mayonnaise. This apparently acts as a strengthener, so the fragility of the batter is reduced, and you don't need to worry about deflation. Now making it was fairly easy. From a Gordon Ramsay tip, I'm sifting the flour, and from Great British Chefs, seasoning with some nutmeg. What I was most concerned with was trying to find a way to get the most consistent or foolproof kind of way of incorporating the wet ingredients to get a smooth batter. Tom Kerridge has a handy tip of making a well, pouring in the eggs and milk and slowly bringing in the flour. I found it even better to first add the eggs to the well, mix that up, and then bit by bit stir in the milk. Follows a similar pattern to making a sauce, and this way the eggs take on the flour smoother, and the milk then just sort of dilutes it until the right consistency. With a now perfectly smooth Yorkshire pud batter, we can add mayonnaise in as a final Hail Mary to guarantee that beautiful Yorkie rise. Now the next question is whether it needs to be cold or not. It seems to be split across recipes. There's definitely a case for resting the batter, but it may not make too much difference about the temperature. I decided chilling was the way to go, given when deep frying, which this is similar to, definitely benefits from a chilled batter to create a lighter, crispy texture. That can rest for about an hour, or less depending on how hungry you are. I think we're talking minute differences here. So let's move on to the sausages. I'm always looking for the right trade-off of level of effort to cost and value. If you think making your own sausages is worth the effort it takes, then absolutely that's what you should do. For me, the sausages I get from the local butcher or even some supermarket ones are better or just as good as anything I make, and they don't cost a fortune and I can buy them ready to use, so it's a no-brainer for me. Just get some good quality sausages from wherever you source them. Now the main question that came up with these was whether they should be pre-cooked at all before the batter goes in. I decided that given we need to preheat the fat to cook with Yorkshire in it, it was worth chucking the sausages at the same time, just to brown a little. I did try and be fancy and create some lines in the sausages to prevent them from bursting, but I don't think it's made any difference, and I certainly couldn't see the lines when they came out, so I wouldn't really bother. Before I put the sausages in though, there is one other thing to mention. The Yorkshire needs fat to cook in, and while you could probably get away with some oil, the absolute best option for me is duck fat. This stuff has great flavour and is a favourite amongst many roasts. Beef drippings is also a popular option, but maybe a bit harder to source, so I say stick to the good stuff. Add a little of that into your roasting tin. I've got a cast iron which conducts heat better, something very useful when making Yorkshire puddings, but it's not essential if you haven't got one. And then I'll put that in the oven while it preheats. That allows the fat to melt, and then I can add in the sausages and give that a few minutes to brown. For this next step, apparently you need to be super quick. I'm not entirely sure why, but all the recipes basically imply that I need to be like the Flash. So make sure to note this down. Get out the batter, give everything a quick stir, then pour over the sausages and get it straight back in the oven to cook for around 30 minutes. That's just enough time for the final component, caramelized onions. This is something I've made more regularly, and I think it fits exactly what you want from caramelized onions. I have made this in a previous video, so I'll drop a link so you can check out the full recipe. The trick is to sweat and steam the onions for at least 10 minutes or even longer to get them soft and sweet but not bitter. Then it's just about flavouring to your liking and slowly adding the stock until it's the consistency you like. Onions ready, out comes the absolute masterpiece that is Toad in the Hole. I ended up leaving it in the oven a tad too long, closer to 40 minutes, and so the Yorkshire pudding was a bit darker than I would have gone for, so 30 minutes is definitely the sweet spot I reckon. The sausages were very well done, and if you like yours a little less cooked like me, then they also don't really need that pre-browning, as that colour's going to come on regardless. Serve that up on its own or with some roasties, and you've got classic pub grub homemade. It was super easy to make, perfect Yorkshire batter, and it still tastes great even if you overbake it like me. No excuse then not to give it a go the next time you're making dinner for the family, so get cooking, and I'll see you in the next video.